On behalf of the New York Association of Convenience Stores, welcome to this Facebook Live event on the topic of the new employee scheduling regulations that have been proposed by the Cuomo administration here in New York. I'm Jim Calvin. I'm the president of the NYACS. We're glad you've joined us, and we're going to spend some time talking about not only the regulations themselves, but more importantly, the impact on convenience stores across New York if these regulations are ultimately enacted by the Cuomo administration. For those of you who are not familiar with NYACS, we're a member-driven trade organization that leads and safeguards and tries to forge a favorable environment for New York's community of neighborhood convenience stores. And we do that in several ways. We provide advocacy. We're the voice for the convenience store industry at the state capitol and with local governments across the state. We provide education and training to the trade. We provide lots of information on not only what's going on in the regulatory world, but also in the marketplace. We do a trade show and provide ways for retailers and suppliers to interact and exchange ideas and hopefully become more successful in the convenience store business. Let's talk for a minute about the proposal that has come from the State Labor Department. The regulations were published on November the 22nd, and they're in the midst of a 45-day public comment period. First, you would be required, all employers, regardless of size and regardless of the type of business, would be required to post the work schedule at least 2 weeks in advance. 14 days in advance, you'd have to post the schedule. Now, if you call in an employee to work a shift that was not scheduled at least 2 weeks in advance, you'd have to pay that person an extra 2 hours of call-in pay at the regular rate. If you cancel an employee shift within 72 hours of the start of the shift, you'd have to pay them at least 4 hours of call-in pay. And if you have someone on call for any shift, even if they aren't called in, you'd still have to pay them at least 4 hours of call-in pay. In addition, if an employee is required to check in with you 72 hours, within 72 hours of the start of a shift to find out whether they should come in or not, you'd have to pay them at least 4 hours of call-in pay. There are some exceptions to this, specifically for higher paid employees, for new hires during the first 2 weeks of employment, or in severe weather conditions that force you to close your business or curtail your hours of operation. You can find more about the details of these regulations online at the New York State Labor Department website. But the concern that has arisen here in our industry is that it's going to handcuff retailers in the convenience store business because it's a business that inherently is unpredictable. And these regulations would try to force predictability on an industry that is just not predictable. Here to talk with us and with me about the regulations and what their impact would be on the retail business is Steve Doheny. Steve, welcome.
Jim, thank you very much for asking me to come.
Glad to have you with us. Steve is with Doheny Oil in Ballston Spa in Saratoga County, and Steve has been in the business for quite some time. Tell us about your business.
Wow, let me think. It's been a long time, actually. This is my 34th year. Next year will be 35. I'm a second generation. My parents started the business back in 1960. We have a location in Ballston, which is a convenience store. It also has gasoline and service bays. I've got 10 employees, and I'm glad Jim notified us of this. We've been a member of NYACS for a number of years. My dad actually was one of the founding members many years ago when NYACS started. But we have some grave concerns. Let me give you a couple examples, okay. Jim. We have a younger employee that he and his wife are expecting sometime between the end of February and the beginning of March. They've already notified me that he'll be taking 2 weeks of paid family leave to start with. That's new for 2018, so this will be one of the first people we've had actually take that. Along with his 2 weeks vacation, he'll probably be taking his personal time at the time as well. But the problem is, even with doing the schedule 2 weeks in advance, we don't know exactly when the baby's going to be coming. So kind of the problem we're running into is going to be, okay, well, let's say we do the schedule 2 weeks in advance and we have somebody scheduled, one of the other people, to come in and fill in. Well, if the baby doesn't come, do I then just say, okay, well, I'll cancel the second employee, keep on the same person working until the baby's actually born? In that case, I have to pay the 4 hours for the person that I've canceled. That could go on for a few days. So that really leaves us up in the air, leaves us in lurch. And so we're really concerned about that. The other one that really comes up, and we've had this happen a number of times over the years, have been people that have been called for jury duty. So if I have somebody that's called for jury duty and they let me know, they say, okay, look, I'm scheduled for jury duty starting next Monday. I've got a call Sunday night. Okay, so I've got to really have somebody in place in case when they do call, they're told, yep, you got to report on Monday morning. So same thing with my other employee who's going out with his maternity leave. What happens if Sunday night I've got somebody scheduled for the next day, but they say, okay, your number's not called for tonight, call back again tomorrow. Okay, so then I have to cancel the person that was scheduled on the schedule, pay them the 4 hours, bring the first person in, and then go about this the same thing the next day. This could be a potential nightmare for us. And we're just kind of wondering why. I mean, why has all this come to a head? Is there a problem of some sort? We don't think so, but...
Well, Steve, have any of your employees ever complained that you're not announcing, not posting the schedule far enough in advance?
It's never been a problem. Never. In the history of my business for 34 years, we've never had these issues. But apparently the governor feels there must be some kind of a problem, and so good businesses now are going to be penalized for it. I don't really know what the rationale is for it. Maybe there are some businesses that are taking advantage of people. I'm not aware of them, but we're not. And obviously there are a number of other business people I've spoken to who have the same concerns. What's going to happen, you know?
One thing I've heard from our member convenience stores is that they feel as if they are very flexible with their employees, and that they have to be in this environment, this labor market, this environment. They're employing students, working parents, others whose schedules change unexpectedly, and so they need to be flexible. This scheduling regulation would give them less flexibility, right?
Absolutely. And I think the big concern is going to be, now, quite honestly, it's a matter of dollars and cents to some extent. So what happens in the situation where somebody's sick? Do I call the other individual in to fill in for that schedule, or do maybe I just run a little bit shy and hopefully I don't have a problem with customer service? Maybe in our case, my wife and I just get down and fill in. Hopefully we're there. Hopefully it's not an issue where, again, I have 2 kids in college right now, so maybe I'm out loading my daughter's stuff back into her apartment at college and I'm unavailable to work. I don't know, but it's certainly going to tie our hands, and either way, it's going to cost us more money. I guess the real concern, though, is going to be what happens 3 years from now or 2 years from now when we're audited and all of a sudden, okay, we do have the 2-week schedule, and the 2-week schedule doesn't actually mesh with the way the actual hours were paid for that. Can we explain it? I'm not sure if I can remember back that far. We've never had a problem with our employees. There's never been a complaint about it. We've always paid them fairly, and if they show up and they work and they do the job, we do whatever we can. But again, if you're in business, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to work with people as best you can to work around their busy schedules as well. It's never been a problem, but now it's going to be a costly one.
You're watching a Facebook Live event with the New York Association of Convenience Stores on the topic of the employee scheduling regulations that have been proposed by the New York State Department of Labor. We want to hear from a few other NYACS members, and we have excerpts from comments that they have already submitted to the State Labor Department during this public comment period. This is from CPD Energy Corporation. They're based in New Paltz and operate throughout downstate New York. In a perfect world, they say, we would gladly offer 2-week advance scheduling. In reality, in a high turnover, entry-level environment, we're generally satisfied if we still have the same staff members in 2 weeks.
That can be a challenge sometimes. This is from Crosby's. They operate 75 stores throughout New York State. And one of their comments was, we employ many single moms that may have sick infants and students with unpredictable school schedules. We cannot penalize associates that have unforeseen events arise in their lives, and we should not be penalized for calling available associates to work, even if they were not scheduled. We work to foster a team environment, and our associates work as a team. The proposed rule changes drive a wedge into teamwork.
NOCO Express is a chain of 40 stores based in Buffalo, New York. I have been managing retail businesses for 40 years, and it's unbelievable that New York State government continues to put unnecessary pressure on an industry that is already challenged with so many obstacles outside of an average business. And I'm hearing that more and more, Steve, is that it's not just the scheduling regulations that are being proposed, but the context in which they're being proposed. We're faced with another round of minimum wage increases that are going into effect on December 31st of 2017. The paid family leave requirement, that program is going into effect on January 1st. There's a multitude of new regulations and legislation that are combining to put so much pressure on the convenience store industry right now.
I think it's in particular, too, if you have a large enough company where maybe you can share employees from one location to another, it may be very, very helpful for you. But if you're a one or two store operator, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to not only abide by the guidelines, but be able to run your business as efficiently and as profitably as you have in the past. From Lakeport Mobile in Chittenango, New York, no one can predict what weather, traffic, and other events that may happen in a few days. But now we would be required to know what will be happening 14 days from now to schedule employees. This is impossible to do. Customer service will suffer, vendors may not be supplying stores properly, out of stock and lost sales and lost margins will increase. It's unfortunately quite true. We live in the North Country and we get snowstorms. And when we get snowstorms, if it's a minor snowstorm and it's not a big deal, okay, we can live with it. Guess what happens when we get that 1 or 2 feet of snow? We've got people coming in that need to have their cars filled. We've got people who are plowing, who are doing all kinds of outside activities. We've got to be able to service them, plain and simple. So, and again, in other cases, we may have to close down because nobody can get into us. My question is going to be, if it's not quote unquote a state of emergency because it's only in one part of the state, do the people in that one part of the state suffer more than the rest of the state? We've seen that in Buffalo, those poor guys.
Yeah. This is from Quick Check Corporation, which operates stores in the Lower Hudson Valley and Long Island. We have been named one of the best places to work in New York for each of the past 5 years. We would have no choice but to scale back tuition reimbursement, employee discounts, and many voluntary benefits for our team members if forced to make additional payments simply to keep a store staffed.
Toomey's Express. New York State seems to be very happy to go after the small businessmen like me, trying to earn an honest living, trying to support their community, and paying taxes. New York State keeps dipping into my business bank account for sales tax, cigarette taxes, fuel taxes, employee taxes, insurance costs, etc. New York State is not friendly to small business owners. Awfully true. I can just give you a little minor example. When I first started in the business back in 1983, one of the things my dad told me was that we have a thing in New York State called a gross receipts tax. And a gross receipts tax is a tax that was a temporary tax put on. It was actually 0.75% when I started. It's now over 17 cents per gallon for gasoline. And I said to my dad at the time, we had a fuel oil business, I filled out a meter ticket and I reduced the gross receipts tax when I calculated the actual sales tax. This was for a commercial account. And I was pretty smart. I'd graduated from college. And so I said to my dad, well, Dad, you're not allowed to have double taxation. And he just smiled and looked at me and he said, well, it's technically called a user fee, and so it's taxable. And to this day, again, more taxes.
Tax on a tax.
Yep.
This from Cliff's Local Markets based in Marcy, New York, in the central part of the state. Our employee scheduling is done a week in advance and must accommodate college students, employees who work 2 jobs, people with children, spouses or aging parents to care for, transportation restrictions and issues, retirees on Social Security with earning caps. Schedules are a collaborative effort and inevitably change. The need for the employer to be flexible with the workforce, but having to schedule 2 weeks, fully 2 weeks in advance, is just going to put a crimp on that flexibility.
Absolutely. PJ Hyde and Sons in Saranac Lake, New York. We would not be able to offer the flexible scheduling desired by our current employees. Our store operations would be under financial pressure to make staffing decisions detrimental to our employees. We would have to consider changing our hiring practices so as to avoid people with personal obligations that might interfere with the advanced 14-day work schedule.
And this from Pompey Mall. They're a single store in Pompey, New York, just south of Syracuse. I do my scheduling 1 week before the start of the next work week. I have a calendar for all employees to block off days they cannot work. My location supports a rural community with a population that is not increasing. At the same time, my costs have escalated with the new minimum wage scale. As a result, I have had to reduce payroll hours and find other places to cut costs. That seems to be happening more and more with in the retail business, where sales are not increasing.
Yep.
Population is not growing, so there's no organic growth in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the costs keep escalating.
It's very true. And just a minor example, for many, many years, we've always had a part-time, usually high school student, to come in for 3 days a week, a 4-hour shift, to help out doing trash cans, to help out doing some of the activities that you get behind on sometimes, maybe mopping the floors during the winter. This is the first time our student actually went to college this fall. We've not replaced him. And the real reason for it is between the increase in the minimum wage and the fact that it's just getting more difficult to be able to make payrolls fully. We just figured we'd all just pitch in and do the work ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for coming in today and helping us with this Facebook Live event. And we appreciate that you and other NYACS members are speaking up on this important issue and telling the Department of Labor how it's going to impact you if they move forward and impose these regulations. You have an opportunity to comment as a business owner. And you can submit your comments directly to the Department of Labor. You send it either by mail or by email, and you only have until this, January 2nd, so don't wait. Do it now. It can be brief, it can be one paragraph, but just be sincere, be direct, and explain how your business would be impacted if you had to abide by a 2-week schedule and pay extra money to people who get called in or whose shifts get canceled because of circumstances beyond your control. NYACS will continue to fight this along with other associations representing retail businesses across New York State, and we'll keep you informed on this. We thank you for joining us for this Facebook Live event. We want to once again thank our friends Work Alerts for providing the technical assistance to make this possible. I'm Jim Calvin. Thank you for participating.